Dr. Bauer. I've always gotten into this mode that we're 3 seconds in and we should be live on Facebook Live, but I like to chatter a little bit with no real content to verify that we are actually streaming live on a North Penn School District Facebook page. I do the refresh. I'm going to say good morning to you. How are you doing today? The 2nd of October. It's October already.
I am doing okay today. I do want to start with the fact that today is a very important holiday for our Jewish community. Today is Yom Kippur. So I want to wish our Jewish community a happy Yom Kippur. But with some holidays in our community, not all, but some, we don't have students or staff today. We have 12-month staff, not the 10-month staff and teaching staff. So it is a little quieter today. We're a little, you can see Mr. Rhone and you usually have shirt and tie. We're a little more casual today because there's not the normal hustle and bustle and running around to buildings. So appreciate the opportunity to get together and chat about something that's very important.
Very good. I will confirm we're live, and we'll introduce Mr. Rhone here, our coordinator of emergency management and safe schools. And why don't you just start today, Dr. Bauer, just talk about why we're doing a Facebook Live this morning on Tuesday, the 2nd.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Bob. So when I was new to this role, actually, we've talked about this recently, the first day, July 1st, 2022, I think it was, I was actually, it might've been a Friday. Or I was off on a vacation day, but you were like, it's your first day.
We got to do it. Yeah.
We got to do this. We got to go on Facebook Live and just talk. Okay, let's do it. And our plan with that was, yes, we'll do summaries of school board meetings. We'll come together. We'll use Facebook for some podcast episodes, but really it's a great way to connect and engage with the community. Like, it's a good format that is very accessible to people, that they can ask us questions and we can talk. A school board meeting is not that. A school board meeting, yes, there's public comment, but it's really people attending a meeting of the board and watching their meeting. That's what that is, right? But this is, do we talk about gnomes or no? Okay, Mrs. Diffley, you got to fill me in on what that's about. I don't know what you're talking about. Bob clearly knows. So, so this is a mechanism for us when we have things that we need to talk about. We hop on and we talk. The day after the vote for the referendum, you and I hopped on here and we talked about it, right? Other incidents we've hopped on here and had a conversation and allowed people in the chat, of course, in a respectful, polite manner to ask questions, and then we can provide live answers. We've used other formats in the past, like met in the community, had community forums, had, conversations here at the ESC, and they're just not well attended. The gnomes in Mr. Rhone's background. Got it. Okay. Oh, that was a good shout out, Mrs. Diffley. Love it. So we're here on Facebook Live. We're hoping to use this as a vehicle to talk about what we discussed at our Safe Schools Committee meeting on Tuesday night. Was that Tuesday or Monday?
Monday night.
Monday night. They all blend together. So what we discussed was a reorganization of our North Penn School District Emergency Management and Safe Schools Department, also known as the more common nomenclature is security. So we have a security department led by Mr. Rhone, and we are proposing a switch to include a few school police officers. So these would be individuals who are currently on our team. And for those who don't know, we have quite a few. The majority of the security team are either retired police officers or currently serving police officers, Mr. Rhone being one of them. He was a police officer for many years. And so it would be current staff having the opportunity to be sworn in as school police, and then they would serve in the role as a police officer, but employed by the school district. Please, if you haven't, go back and watch the meetings. School board meetings, committee meetings are not always the most entertaining, but this one is really informative and important. So if you haven't watched it, please do, because many of your questions might be answered there. But in this model, the proposal is to have a school police officer in each of the secondary buildings. And then we would have one who is roaming, which we currently have a person who roams and goes to different buildings just to stop in, to be a security presence. But also, if there's an issue, he goes to that place. And then we would have Mr. Rhone. So it would be 6 total. And then for now, and we'll see how it goes if this passes. Now, when people hear school police, they immediately go to firearm. Will they be armed? The proposal is yes, those 6 individuals would have a firearm. They are people who are certified to do so. They are people who have been police officers or are currently police officers and would have all the same safety and training requirements. But there's a lot of other things, Bob, that goes with being a police officer that people don't think of. We have MOUs with our police departments, and Mr. Rhone is the expert here, but we have MOUs that we have to call them for certain things, right? So let's say it's a student with a vape and it has an illegal substance in that vape. We'll say THC. We call the police now, right? And it takes some time for the police to come. They're always so great and attentive, but them coming to the high school or a middle school for a vape is not, number one priority. I know that. And it takes time out of what they're doing to come over, fill out the paperwork, contact the parents, all those things. Some of these things are things that we could handle, right? There are some, let's say there's a physical altercation or a fight and it warrants police attention. We've broken it up. We've taken statements. We've seen security footage. And now we call the police. And then we're pulling them off the street to come here and deal with something that's already been dealt with. The paperwork, the issuing of citations, those types of things. These are the types of things that our own folks could then handle. So it really does, it's a partnership with them. There will still be incidents that they are called for. There will still be things beyond our scope, but some of those smaller things that we have the capacity to handle with a small department, we would handle. So that's kind of the overall premise, Bob, that we would have these people, one person at each secondary school to start, 2 people who have the ability to kind of traverse the district on an everyday basis, including Mr. Rhone. He's one of them. And yes, they would have a firearm. Yes, they would have the ability to issue citations and traffic violations and things like that. We wouldn't have to call our local police departments for those things. So that was a lot of words. Sorry, we're already 7 minutes in, but that's the general premise. And our hope for this Facebook Live was let the chat, and we've been empowering that chat, Bob, like chat, ask us questions. So,
and we've had a few so far, but I think in part of our conversation here, we'll get to it. I'm just wondering when people, and you just kind of laid out the history and what we were looking at and the reasons why we're considering this. And I'm just wondering, like, if we can talk about with Mr. Rhone, like, what's that look like when we say school police? And is it essentially a police department whose jurisdiction is our property? Is it similar to a regular police department? Just kind of the function of when we say police, how is that similar to with these officers when they get designated as our school police? And is it a police department within the school? And then all of those, to me, if it's that, and you can tell us, Mr. Rhone, what's that mean from like training and requirements and reports to the state and all those types of things? How's that model and look like our local police departments when it's our own?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I appreciate the opportunity. I would like to address the gnomes. Yes, the gnomes are up. It is football fall season, so the Eagles gnomes are up. Go Birds.
4-0 gnomes.
That's right. So that's a really good question. And so when you think about it, a Department of Public Safety, which is why we are reorganizing, because the Department of Public Safety allows you to have various facets, right? So to expand on what Dr. Bauer talked about, right? We're not doing away with our security officers. We are keeping security officers. We are adding school police officers who will do different things. And so to your question, Mr. Gilmer, our school police officers are certainly required to have the same training that municipal police officers across the Commonwealth are required to have. From a state reporting standpoint, the incidents that our local police for state reporting that we send to verify that the numbers match, that state reporting would still happen to PIM. So it's not like we no longer do state reporting. So incidents that the officers within the Department of Public Safety would handle would still get reported through PIM's reporting up to the state for them to be made available to the public, just like we talk when we do in our quarterly Safe Schools meeting when we report on discipline. So those reporting things would still happen. And so for those who maybe trying to get a picture of what this looks like. If you think about like your university police, right? You have university police officers, you have public safety officers, you have resident life folks who all work under this, like Department of Public Safety. The primary jurisdiction would be that of school district property for enforcement standpoint and for response. So you would not see officers taking, your general 911 calls to a residence in the community. But we would handle calls of service for any one of our properties across the 6 municipalities. So it would really shrink down that, really geofence down to district owned and leased property from a response and authority standpoint.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, and Dr. Bauer, between the two of you here, like this is not a new thing or not a thing that we haven't seen in Montgomery County or even across the state. Are there any examples of other school districts that have a similar setup, a school police department within their school system in the county, or how many do we have in the county now?
Yeah, really great question. And I do need to clarify something for the record. So I was told in advance of the meeting this week, and we have refined the information. So first of all, you're correct. This is not a new model at all. This has existed. Actually, schools started having school police in some way since the 50s. Mm-hmm. It is now over 50% of the country. But I said the other night that 16 out of 22 in Montgomery County have some version of school police, SRO, which is school resource officer. Mm-hmm. There are some school districts that have contracted security who are armed. You don't have to be a police officer to be armed, right? I mean, your average citizen can get licensed to carry a firearm, depending on which state you're in, those types of things. But there are 12 school districts with an SPO or SRO model out of the 21 that are not named North Penn. I said 16 the other night, it's 12. And there are school districts that have armed security, but I was speaking specifically to SRO, SPO. So not a new model, but I also mentioned that at North Monco, which is our technical career center, so different school districts across the Commonwealth, they send students to different technical career centers. North Monco is ours, and it happens to be adjacent to the North Penn High School property. A lot of people think we own it. We do not. We contribute, and 47% of the kids who go there are North Penn students. That said, they have armed school police at North Monco. But the other sending school districts are Perk Valley, Methacton, Wissahickon, Souderton, and then us, of course. Those other 4, they all have an SPO or SRO model and North Monco. So if you look at those 6 institutions, North Monco and the 5 of us, 5 of the 6 have a model like this, us being the school district that does not.
Yeah, and I don't know, Brandon, as we looked across there, as you talk to other school systems and the ones you're familiar with, what has been the advantage for them? If we talk about the advantages for us, we talked about some of that at the beginning there, Dr. Bauer, but I'm just wondering, like, hey, this has really helped us, I think Springford's one of them. Is that accurate? I remember going there and seeing school police officers in uniform and whatnot. Sure. When we have those conversations with other schools, what are some of the things they've said that really assist? And one of the things we were chattering about yesterday, I was talking to somebody else, is it's not just incidents and the role of school police in our buildings to work with our students in general, not only when they're in trouble, right? Or there's an incident or there's some kind of thing, those kinds of parts. What are some of the feedback you've received from other schools?
Yeah. So, a lot of schools that do this, this model do things really well, right? And to your point, to reiterate, it's not just about law enforcement, right? It's about relationship building. It's about education. And I think I used the reference in the Safe Schools meeting. There are opportunities at every level to provide programming for students, right? So when we think about at the high school level, we can do all kinds of things from explorer type programs that model like the protective services at the tech school. There's engage students in driver's education. I can tell you there are a number of individuals, and I will include myself in that number, who, when we were 15 years old, reading the permit book, we never really read it cover to cover, but we signed the form, and our parents signed that we understand the rules and the laws of traffic, to be able to have an operator's license. But to be able to have an opportunity to really dive into what you can and cannot do as far as operating a motor vehicle, and really the responsibility of a 16 or 17-year-old has when operating that motor vehicle, that I think oftentimes, or more times than not, we kind of overlook or take for granted, like the level of responsibility that I have as a minor operating a motor vehicle in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And then it's, again, gives opportunity to be a part of the culture and climate of the building every single day, right? So that kids get to know and see the same face and build relationships and talking points. And, it just goes from the occasional or casual walkthrough, when you really have an opportunity to impact students' daily academic day through an opportunity for them to garner professional friendships, right? Like, one of the things that interests me in law enforcement was not only family in the role, but we had an SRO, right? And I saw that same SRO every single day, and we talked about life, and we talked about like decisions after, what are you going to do? What do you think you want to do as a profession, right? And talk through some of those conversations, and having that constant person that I can go to was really, really helpful. And we never interacted in any law enforcement way. It was really just about making good decisions. And if I was frustrated, or I found myself in a moment where like I just needed to go vent and bend someone's ear, I had an opportunity to do that, and it was a safe space to do that. And so there's a lot of good that comes from that type of model, and a lot of our school districts do it really well.
No, I think that's a good point. And Dr. Bauer, I don't know, one of the things to be clear, and you said this already, so people are just joining us, we're not replacing our local police. Like,
yes,
we still work with all of our local police. Our local police are in the buildings every day now. They still do walkthroughs. Talk about those conversations with the local municipality police departments, and basically how these things overlap and connect with each other. And I saw some questions here. We talked about, are the police officers armed? Will the students be made aware that they're armed, and those types of things? We have police in our building every day, and not in a way that's because there's an incident. They're in the buildings frequently. So talk about that a little bit in your conversations you've had with municipalities.
Yes, thanks, Bob. I don't know if you're able to, but I just put a slide here.
I saw
in
that
the lobby.
Let me see.
Are you able to share that?
Can you reshare it again? Oh,
it's in there. I see it like sitting in the waiting room here.
See, I don't know that I can do it. Let me see here.
I'll tell you what.
I see it. I got it. I got it right there.
Oh, there we go. Look at that.
Yeah.
Your production skills.
Yep.
All right. So, yes, thanks, Bob. And thanks for everybody who's here. I don't want to back up all the way to the start of this, but in summary, the question here is, are they replacing our local police departments? And absolutely not. We have such a great relationship with them. I cannot say enough about our 6 police chiefs that we work with, the officers who report to our schools, and are committed to keeping our students and staff safe. Absolutely. There will absolutely still be events that we call them for. There will absolutely be things that are beyond the scope of the North Penn School District, of course. We will have one school police officer at each building, at each secondary building to start. So we will absolutely still lean on those community partners, and we have been collaborating with them through the planning of this. We met with them as recently as last week. But this slide here really emphasizes, so you're seeing last year we had 143 in the school district responses to incidents. Now, keep in mind, we have 18 buildings, 180 days of school, and this is not just during school hours. This is every single phone call. So, for example, if we had a senior citizen fall at a community concert at North Penn High School on a Saturday, it's not a school district event. They rented our facility, they put on an event, and something happened. They were called to our building. That's an incident on our property. So I just want to kind of put out there that there's 143 incidents that they were called to our campuses for. On the left-hand side, just 3 of the 6 municipalities, you're seeing that's a number of times they just stopped by. just stopped by and walked around and went into the cafeteria and saw kids. And we give them access to our buildings. We give swipe cards to all of our local officers, and we encourage it. Park your car out front, let people know you're here, and walk around and build relationships with kids. We want it to be normal that they're seeing you. So when people ask, will there be police in schools and will they be armed? My response is we have police in our schools every single day right now. In most occasions, it's for good reasons, just community policing. But then they are also in our buildings when we call them for help. So yes, Bob, they would be there. No, they would not replace. And we look forward to those continued partnerships because they are excellent in this school district.
Awesome. So I'm just bouncing around. I'm looking at the questions here a little bit. So we think about our school police department. There's some practicality. There's a question in here about like the citations. If there's a fine associated to that, like the nuance of those types of things. Are most citations we get like more of a criminal citations, like, hey, you did this and here's community service, or I'm not even sure how they work when a kid is cited with our local police departments. What will that look like for us? Is this a fine? How's that work as our own school police department?
Yeah, I'll try my best. And Mr. Rhone, you can correct me where I'm wrong. Yes, there are some incidents where there are fines associated, right? A disorderly conduct charge. If we call in, I'll just use the high school as the example. You call in Townsend Township because of a disorderly conduct, something that goes above and beyond just normal school discipline. Then they issue a citation, and there are fees associated with that go to the county and to the state and all those things. That doesn't change. There's no difference. In incidents where we would call the police, our school police would still be involved. In a major incident, we would still call them. In some where there's gray area, like, is this something we should handle or they should handle? As the police chief said last week, they said, Todd, when it's a bit murky who should handle it, we call the county now and they tell us who should handle it, right? Now the county detective should handle that, or the local municipality should handle that. So all of that would still exist. I can tell you this, we do not issue many citations throughout the school year. It is not a money-making venture at all. I could absolutely have that data. I mean, we have all the discipline data, but the number of citations that were issued by our police departments, I'm sure Mr. Rhone has access to that. We could have that together for the next meeting. I know that when I was talking to our police chiefs about bus patrol and the citations for people running the stop arms, they said, when they issue a speeding ticket, the local police department ends up getting like $20 from that $300 fine. So this is not about money. This is about efficiency, safety, and sometimes one of our principals just yesterday said to Ms. Liberoski, our director of school and community engagement, she was walking around one of the buildings, and the principal said, right now, if there's a matter that is not an emergency, but one in which we have to call the police, you wait for them to come. They have to contact their parents. The parents have to come in. Then they have to do their paperwork. Then they have to go out to their car. Then they have to come back. All these things that if we were handling it could be streamlined a little more efficiently. And that saves time for our police officers who are out in the community. It also saves time for our building staff and our administrators. So it just kind of streamlines things and simplifies the smaller infractions or incidents where we can handle that. So that's what's being proposed, Bob.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point of saying, just reminding everybody, we're not replacing local police. It's taking care of the things we can take care of, and when we need assistance and where we need to bring people in, we do. We have Lucy here is just asking a question like, if there's a fight, there's an individual or a couple individuals or something happens, how is that different with our school police versus our security versus our local municipality police? Like, I guess it depends on the severity of the incident, right? So it's a thing, and I want to say, we have some kind of push and shove altercation in the cafeteria, and normally security's in the cafeteria already, so they're handling it. How is that different for us? I think you just explained it there. It's just going to be the level of what maybe happened there and who gets involved at what level, right?
Yeah. So I've been here for 11 years, and I can think of one time where police intervened to help break up an incident. Every other time, because our security team handled it. or the administration or the staff handled it, broke it apart, got the kids separated. This, you take Bob into this office, you take Brandon into that office, we talk with them, we call their parents, those types of things. That's how physical altercations are normally handled. I can think of one time where they came and helped to break something up. So I don't see a change on that front, Bob, where you would expect your security team, your administrative team, your principals, assistant principals, and anyone else who is supervising in the cafeteria to break that up. And then after that, that is when we would typically call the police and say, okay, we had this physical altercation. Let's watch the video. Is it disorderly conduct? Is it assault? Is it blank, blank, blank? And then the charges are determined in collaboration with the district attorney's office. And of course, you have to have a victim and someone who presses charges against the other student. So all that doesn't change. It's just who is processing that changes. Still collaborating with the district attorney, still collaborating with the county and our local police departments as well.
And I think, to talk about too, when we're talking about like incidents, and I think everybody's mind goes to police officer incident, something terrible, right?
Yeah.
Which is part of our conversations all the time to plan and prepare for that. But just getting down to the everyday, again, to talk about, Mr. Rhone, if you could talk about how many officers are we talking about? What's their shift look like? Where are they at? Where are they going to? What's a daily shift look like with the number of school police officers that we're proposing? What would that look like in any given day?
For sure. So it'd be 6 in total. And just while we're talking about that, there will be a process, right? So they will have to go through an interview process and a vetting, right? So the number is defined, but the who is not, right? So we have to go through a process to get names attached to those 6 positions. But it would be internal applicants from that perspective. And then from a daily shift, it would look much like it does today, right? So we have folks in as early as 6:30 and someone as late as 7 p.m. To make sure that we have all of our daily operational hours covered. And then certainly that would also include any of our events that we provide coverage for. So it would be primarily day work during the normal school operation hours, and then certainly covering events and things of that nature that we do. So you think about, if you come to any home football game, you will see 2 to 3 or 4 Talminson police officers at an event. And so that would be school police officers, other events that you may have come to see, graduation, things of that nature. So all of those things would still be supported with school district police officers.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think that's a good point where we talk about, for the most part, these are our people we're looking at, right? And as time goes by, we'll be interviewing and doing different things and different people coming to the security department. But I really want to talk about one of the things I think has really been a growth area for the last 10 plus years, where security was somebody sitting at a front desk 20 years ago. You got to think back. We only had like 2 security guards here at North Bend High School when I first started, right? It's grown for all kinds of different reasons, but it's not just about physical security and breaking up a fight or, looking for that kind of muscle in a security situation. It's the relationships that they have with kids. If you can talk about our staff and those types of things, even our regular everyday security, our school police officers, how they work with kids and the training they receive and the quality of that. And Mrs. Diffley made a comment here about the quality of the security staff here and how good they are with kids. And I think that's the everyday I think about too, is what I see in the relationships your staff builds with students across the district. Talk about them a little bit and the types of things you see and the types of training that they get. Yeah,
absolutely. So there is state mandated training that is required for security and school police and SROs. That state mandated training varies on levels, but for school police officers, they are required to have gone through a police academy. They are required to have the NASRO Basic, which NASRO stands for National Association of School Resource Officers. So there's a standard that they teach. It's a 40-hour course that they teach on how to operate within an educational environment, because it is very different. Working in an educational environment is very different than working on the road, right? treat things differently based on, right? Because oftentimes in the educational environment, you're dealing with juveniles and minors, right? And so there's protocols and standards that you have to maintain that are different than dealing with adults on the road. And then, there's other requirements from, we have training around special ed, right? How do we process and how do we identify and how do we work with and how do we navigate? And then there's just some of the other, that's just being a good person, right? And while yes, the training is important and we do that, but as important to me, and I think I can speak for Dr. Bauer, is it's really important for us to have good people. And we have really good people who care about students, who care about our staff, who care about this district. And so the interactions that you see from those folks today, that's just who they are, right? That's who they are to the core. That's who they are in their heart. They're really good people. And the training that is not only requirement, but the additional steps that we take to make sure that we maintain a high standard is on top of being a really good, caring person and really caring about, involved in the kids. When I first got here, I referred to, and I still refer to Bernie as the mayor of North Penn. There is not an individual that I have come across in this community or outside of this community who has gone through North Penn High School that does not know Bernie Jones. And Bernie Jones is a constant face that you will see at the front door of the high school every single morning with a hello, good morning, how are you? Great game yesterday, good job, good hustle. When Bernie's working cross country and he's blocking traffic, he's got one hand with the stop arm out, waving, holding traffic the other way. And he's encouraging every runner as they come across that street that he is blocking. Keep going, push, keep going, right? And Bernie does that. And all of our officers do that because they genuinely care about our staff, our kids, and our community. And so that is kind of the most important to me. And that's one of the reasons why that when we talk about this public safety model and hiring from within, because that is the culture and the mindset and the heart that we want to continue having in this role, right? And I'm not saying there aren't good-hearted, good people out there, right? But we know what is here. And so giving folks within the organization the opportunity to do that and continue that and continue those relationships and foster those relationships and build new relationships is really the reason why in the model we're going this way.
Yeah, that's what I wonder, Dr. Bauer, like what you hear, because I always say this when I look at security. I think it is probably one of our most diverse staff that we have as a department in the entire school district. And the quality of those people, whether it's female, male, Mrs. Diffley was asking about how many female security officers we have, those types of things. What do you hear from community and parents about our security? Is it they're overhanded, they're too tough, or what are the types of things you hear about those relationships Mr. Rhone was talking about?
I'm glad you asked that question, Bob, because I have this mechanism for talking to kids called the Superintendent's Collab. And we meet with students in a few of our elementaries, all the middles, and the high school on a regular cadence, year after year. And it's the same kids. So we're trying to have some, longitudinal data, if you will, with these groups of kids. Every single time I meet with kids, I bring up school safety. Every time. Because it's important to me to hear how, and unequivocally, the kids talk about our security team and how they're so nice, they're so kind. I can go to them if I need help. They're friendly. They don't see them as a heavy hand, as Mr. Rhone was describing. As evidenced by when you posted that video and Bernie won that 4E's award, I'm not sure North Penn School District has ever had a video that had more comments because the entire community knows the guy. And it's the rapport they've built with the students. I saw a question in here about special trainings for students with disabilities and special education. And you're getting at the heart of why we are talking about this. Right? The heart of it is they know our children. They know them. It's not someone who was called to the scene who might be new or doesn't know anyone. These are our people who are with our kids every single day. So I love our department and the way in which I watch them interact with kids. One of my favorite things to do is on a Friday morning, I always start my day at the high school. And on a Friday morning, I'll go and I'll stand in the lobby there at arrival. And it's usually, quite frankly, Mr. Rhone, Bernie, Mr. Hassler, and a couple assistant principals and some other
I'm going
staff.
to pause you real there. So you just said Mr. Rhone, Mr. Hassler,
Yes.
Bernie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody knows Bernie. Go ahead.
All the kids are like, "What's up, Bernie? Yo, Bern."
Yep.
And I just stand there and just watch the way, like, they know every single kid's name. They engage them. They talk to them about their interests. Kids will come up and say things like, "Hey, Mr. Bernie, I da da da," and it's just like, that's what community policing is about, right? It's relationship building, knowing students, and de-escalation. I also share this story. When I was the high school principal, I was one of those people that if there was an incident with a kid and the kid was really escalated, really angry, really upset about something, and the teacher couldn't calm the student down, the assistant principal couldn't calm them down, typically when I walked in the room, I'd be like, "Hey, Bob, come with me. Let's go talk about this in my office. Let's get out of here." I could get the students to calm down and talk with me. If I couldn't, Bernie, right? He would be the one that kids just felt safe with. And that's why. And as the leader there at the high school, the other security staff members follow that lead. And that's the way they treat the kids. So that's what we're looking for here. Our people who we know who have relationships with kids, complemented by our local municipalities who we, again, cannot say enough about.
Got it. And I think we're at the spot here. We'll talk about timeline. This was presented the first time at Safe Schools on Monday night. There's a full board presentation coming up near term. I'm not sure if it's the next work session or not. But there's some details when people are trying to envision this. So a question here from Andy was, are they going to look like police officers? Will they be uniformed? Will you? He's like, clearly they're the school police versus security. What will that look like, Mr. Rhone?
Great question. So the answer is yes. There will be uniformed personnel. The uniform will be different than the security colors and combinations, so that there is a very clear, identifiable delineation between the two, so that nobody's confused about, right? And you're not trying to read a patch to determine, like, all right, well, who am I talking to, right? So people don't feel like they're being trapped or confused. So it'll be very clear, differentiating between the two uniforms. I think there was a second part of the question, Bob.
Well, I think this leads to, like, if they're carrying, make sure they look like police officers. So it's not somebody in a polo shirt that has a gun, right? Like, it'll be clear that they're a police officer and they'll be a North Penn school police officer.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. So they would look, if you think about what our local police department looks, a uniform with a duty belt, a metal badge, and nameplates, things. So it's very clear who that individual is.
They look like police officers because they are police officers.
Correct. Right. And Bob, I'm going to, so I will not name everyone. So my apologies. Brandon, please help me. But just to name some familiar people in the school district who have been or are currently police officers outside of the North Penn School District. Very familiar names. Brandon Rhone, Joe Finnerty, Mike Eves, George Strand, Terry Hammerstone, John Catrone, Frank Whalen,
George Sullivan.
Who
else am I missing? I have to go by schools in my head.
Yeah. I mean, there are Tim Cornelius.
Yes.
What about Eric?
Yes. Yep. Eric Smith.
Like, there are so many of our security team who are or were police officers. Maybe they're retired. And by the way, Mr. Rhone's in his early 40s and he's retired police. So, yeah. So these are people we know. And I remember because Mrs. Diffley has been engaging with us so much here. I remember when Joe Finnerty moved from Penfield to the high school. She was in the chat like, "You took my kid's favorite security guard." Like, these are people that our families, our parents, and folks know. They will have to apply if this passes, if this is something we move forward with. It's not a given that anybody other than Mr. Rhone really gets the position, because we want our department lead. But that's kind of what you're looking at. So thanks for those questions, Bob.
Got it. Yeah. And I'll just throw it out here. We got about 30 some folks that are watching this afternoon. And we always know when people will ask questions later, when they see this maybe later on a replay. So keep throwing your questions in here. But let's talk timeline while we look at some of the questions coming in. What's our timeline? We presented on Monday night. What's it look like from here, Dr. Bauer?
So it is a true timeline. What we would do is ask the board we would make the recommendation to authorize us to take all the necessary steps to do this. And there will certainly be discussion. There would be a vote. And if we get that authorization, then we would have to put policies in place. Obviously, secure. Whoop, there was a graphic based upon my actions here. A little AI here, a thumbs up. I went like this. There would have to be policies put in place. We would have to procure the correct materials and the uniforms and the patches. And like we were seeing in the chat here that they need to look like police officers. Well, we don't have all that equipment right now. Mm-hmm. Once all that happens, there's a process through the court system that we would have to petition the court to have them sworn police officers. We'd have to have interviews. So we're talking months. And we said the other night that a realistic timeline is sometime in the spring. There's no rush here. It's about doing this properly. And one of the things that was brought up the other night as well was, what if this doesn't work out? Great question. When it is your own organization, you have options to make some changes. So if this doesn't serve our community in the ways in which we think it would, and if it's unsuccessful, there would certainly be, somebody asked the question, one of the board members said, would there be an exit ramp? There would. You know, if this doesn't serve us the way that we think it would or should, then we would obviously make changes. And ultimately, if we needed to, we would go in a different direction. But that's what's being proposed right now and for consideration.
Gotcha. And then I'm just looking here. Jason's put a couple questions in here, mostly about budget, it looks like, and some other things and other considerations of why don't we just hire 6 local police officers and just pay them to be here, or what the annual costs are after startup. I'm not sure how much of that got into that meeting on Monday night, or if that's more coming forward in the presentation. But generally, we talked about jurisdiction, local municipalities. Still local municipalities. We're still in those towns. Those relationships are there. But yeah, we're talking about annual budget. And have we looked at like just having Towamencin hire extra police officers for us for the Towamencin schools, and each municipality doing the same thing for each of our other schools?
Yes. So I think we've kind of referenced a lot of that through this conversation, Bob, with like, these are our employees. These are our people who we know, who work with our kids every day right now. And there are models where the local municipality employs the individual and then they come and work in the school. Based upon some of our research and experiences, we would prefer that it be our people for this type of a role. And still with our collaboration, I saw Mr. Lanier ask the question about, would they still have jurisdiction? Some jurisdiction, yeah, our schools will still reside in their townships, mm-hmm. and they would certainly help. Just like, quite frankly, North Wales has a very small police department. If they need support with something going on in North Wales, guess who comes? Upper Gwynedd, mm-hmm. Towamencin, Lansdale, Montgomery. So we would still get support on anything that we needed. When I asked the question, it was almost laughable. Like the police, I said, so when we call you, you would still, they're like, yeah, of course we would. Like, because that's what they do. They serve our community. I said, what about, the schools where you're doing DARE? What about the schools when you're doing walkthroughs? They were like, yes, nothing will change in that regard. So the other questions were about costs. Mr. Rhone and I committed on Monday night that at our next presentation, when we discuss this again, we'll kind of itemize that. And what does that look like? A lot of the $250,000 that was referenced, a lot of that is startup cost. The legacy costs on our end, again, we're not right now talking about adding employees. We're talking about adding responsibility. Mm-hmm. So the cost of adding responsibility, there is a cost to that, right? If you have someone going from a school security officer to a school police officer, yes, there will be some form of compensation there, but it's not a whole new employee with a brand new salary, brand new retirement system, all those things. So we will have that a little more itemized at the next meeting.
Excellent. I'm just going through the presentation one night, and unfortunately, I wasn't at this one, so I didn't get to sit through and listen to all of it. So I'm learning a lot as we're having this conversation here as well. And again, if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in there.
Sure.
A lot of these things we've covered, so we don't like to kind of rehash and keep rehashing throughout the whole course of the piece. But are there other elements that you think about that we haven't talked about today, Dr. Bauer, that, from this standpoint, either generate questions for people to think about when we talk about this school police concept and what we're looking to do?
So I'll say this, that the ideal role of a school police officer, as defined by a lot of the literature out there about school police or school resource officers, is that, yes, they serve as a law enforcement officer, but they are also a fully integrated individual into the faculty and staff. And they serve as an educator, like they mentor and work with and advise kids on things when they, hey, Officer Rhone, could you help me with this? This happened over the weekend. What would you recommend I do? And they're also a counselor of sorts. Not a school counselor as defined by PDE, but they're counseling students in many regards as well. So that's the ideal role. It is someone, they're doing this part, but if the job is done well, they are a fully integrated individual as part of the staff. They're attending events for kids and attending faculty meetings. They're on your staff. That's what you're looking for. Not just someone who is stationed there, but a full member of the community. All the other things and responsibilities are outlined there in the presentation. And I'll say this again, that's one of the challenges with Facebook Live, right? Because people during their break, during their lunch, they hop on their phone, all of a sudden they hop into this conversation that's been going on for 46 minutes and they ask questions about stuff we already talked about. So please, if you're just joining us, hop back and watch the first 45 minutes because there's a lot of good questions in there. It's all outlined in the meeting on Monday night and some of those details. And I saw that some of our local news networks wrote stories that I believe to be accurate. But that's why we're here, to answer these questions and try to talk things through. Our local police departments will still be a part of our school communities, still be responding to things at our schools. This is this is not or.
Yeah.
So it's really, we can't say that enough. This is just some of the little stuff that I don't want to say bother them with, but I can't imagine when they get a call that it's, hey, someone stole a pair of AirPods. We need you to go over and, have a theft report. I can't imagine they get excited about that. Right? So these are things that are able to be handled by the school district, but the big things will still be things that we have to collaborate on.
Yeah, and I'll drop the YouTube link from the committee meeting in this chat here on Facebook, and the same link to the agenda. So we've got lots of meetings coming up. So we have a work session coming up. We're going to discuss this in a school board meeting. There's policy that needs to be developed. So we'll be discussing this at policy committee meetings. And as always, keep an eye on those schedules. They're monthly meetings. We're talking about all kinds of things all the time, but in policy, we'll be talking about the policies surrounding school police. Safe Schools will continue to have updates, of course. We'll have the full board meetings at the work session to talk about, and ultimately a vote to make a decision on it. So if people have questions or concerns or things they'd like to see, what's the best avenue for them to bring that forward for you, Mr. Rhone, for the school board? What's the best way for parents to provide feedback?
So I'll say this, I pride myself, and I hope those in the chat agree, on being very accessible. I'll respond to every single email. And if I don't, I will ask someone else to. So Mr. Rhone's the same way. Brandon will respond to every single person. Yes, school board meetings and committee meetings is a good way to have your voice heard, but it's not the best way to have a conversation. If you want a phone call, let's have a phone call. If you want to come in, we can sit down and talk. I'll be also interested in sitting down with groups of people. And Mr. Rhone, I know, would make himself available. So, Brandon, I don't know if you feel otherwise, but I say send me an email. If you have questions or, and say, hey, Todd, I'd love to chat. I have some questions about this. Send me an email. We'll schedule a time. We'll talk.
No, I 100% agree. I think sometimes messaging gets lost in translation through emails, and certainly not saying that not to email. Please email if that's your preferred method of communication. But like our staff here, I'm a people person. I like to talk. Just ask Dr. Bauer, and so I'd love to have a conversation and sit down and talk through your questions, your comments, your concerns, so that you feel like you have the information you need.
Great. Thank you, Brady.
Great. I'm just scouring old questions here.
Yeah, I saw you drop the link in the chat there for the YouTube video. Please, I think it's like the 11:30 mark of that meeting when we start to talk about it. Please, please, please watch that. I do think there's a lot. That was a more formal presentation of all the nuts and bolts here. And there will be, as you said, Bob, I think the October work session, still finalizing agendas. That's a week and a half away. So if it's not October, it'll likely be November. A lot of work to be done. This is not immediate. This has not been determined. This is a recommendation. And we'll see where we go with this.
Alrighty, I'm just still scrolling. So I think that's it. Any other final thoughts? That sounded like some final thoughts there. You definitely could drop the questions in here. We'll try to pull them together, and that'll help us even with some frequently asked questions and in our next presentation to answer those as we present to the community again. Anything else to wrap up here this morning?
So I do. I see Julie asked a question in there, and I have to give Julie a shout out. She is a very regular follower of our meetings and commentator. Hey, Julie, thanks for that question. And I'll say this, my own wife, who works in a local school district and is very familiar with this model. They have a school police department in her school district, which is also where my own children go. When I mentioned to her that we were discussing this in October, she was like, wait, you don't? And she hears a lot of North Penn stuff because she lives with me, right? She just assumed, and she's been to dozens, if not hundreds of events at North Penn. And she knows many of our security staff by name, and they see her and they're like, hey, Nicole. But she just assumed. And so Julie asked the question, why haven't we? And quite frankly, it's a policy thing. Like have we considered this over the years and discussed it? Yes. I think we are at a point where just what you read about, what you experience, the ways in which schools operate, we think it would be a step in the right direction for us. There's a lot of Mr. Rhone's leadership and a lot of the Safe Schools Committee's leadership. This is something that we owe to the community to talk about. Is this something we want to do or not? It is, as I said, it is 12 out of 21 school districts in Montgomery County. And it is 5 out of 6, if we're including North Monco, of our closest knit school districts have this, and North Penn's the only one that does not. And I recognize that there are some folks who it just, they don't like the idea of police in schools. We have police in our schools every day, and they do a really great job with our kids in building community and relationships. They do. So this is, if we can get past that from a methodological method, I can't think of the word, methodological. If we can get past that from a philosophical, that's a better word, standpoint, and like function, efficiency, safety, does it make sense in 2025? And we'll see where that decision lies. But as we said on Monday night, it's a recommendation, and we'll see where that goes. But I appreciate the engagement. This has been awesome. I see Kit in there, obviously Mrs. Diffley. She's a loyal follower here. What are some, Ashley, Andy? We had a lot of comments and a lot of really good questions. That's what this is all about. And just talk about it. I recognize that people are on different sides of the matter, and I'm totally respectful of that. Like, I understand. I have experience as a teacher and as an administrator in school districts where they had this model. And I've seen it work really well. I've also seen it not work so well. And this is our recommendation for what we think would work really well for North Penn. So I see Lucy in there. I'm trying to get all these names.
Yeah, we got Aaron. Aaron's in there.
Aaron was there earlier. Yep. Terrell commented. So lots of engagement, and really appreciate that. Sophia, geez, this is awesome.
I have one more. Meredith. Sorry.
Meredith.
No, I think it's everybody.
Got everyone
today. We appreciate everybody coming in here today. Alrighty, so stay tuned here. There's definitely in the reporter today. If you get the reporter, they have an article today about the meeting on Monday night. That's in there. You can go to the school district website, and you can go to the school board tab, and you can pull up the agenda. I threw the link in from the Safe Schools meeting into this chat here, so you can watch the whole presentation and skip through that as well. And just look for the upcoming meetings. Obviously, this is not a one and done conversation, and we'll continue to take feedback and provide the information and answer your questions as we go along. So, being 11:30 on Thursday, October 2nd, Dr. Bauer, Mr. Rhone, anything else before we leave?
Just want to say thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, Jennifer, thank you for providing a perfect opportunity for us to talk about the dynamic here with the Facebook Live. We've been talking for 55 minutes, and lots of the questions have been recycled. So please, 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 if you're just hopping on, go back and watch. But the topic that's being discussed right now is 6 total school police officers, current employees who are or were police officers, 1 at each secondary school, and then 2 people who have the capacity and ability to roam around the school district and stop into our elementaries and so forth. So talking about 6 total for now as a starting point.
Okay, very good. Alrighty, folks. Hope everybody has a great rest of their Tuesday here, and we'll look forward to our next moment like this and at our future school board meetings.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Bob.
Take care.
Have a great day, everybody.